Excel is really good for dealing with data, but it's important to make sure that your data is clean. You may have heard of the task of cleaning data and wondered what does that mean? Well, data can look okay, but it's really not okay. And I'm going to walk you through some examples of how to actually clean the data. But first, I want to convince you that it needs to be cleaned because it might look okay, but it's not okay sometimes, even though it looks okay. So look here, just for an example. This is just a motivator to show you you really need to clean your data, even if it looks okay. Here we've got a 12 in this cell. But it's not just a 12. There's an extra something invisible in there. If you click on the cell, you can look up here to see what's in it. All that's in it is a 12. But there's the reason why this cell is bigger is because there's an invisible carriage return in there. So to get rid of that, we're going to show you how to use these two functions, clean and trim. And this is a formula that I put in this cell to clean and trim what's in this cell. And what it does, it gets invisible stuff, extra spaces, carriage returns, tick marks, things that often come from if you import data from a different system into a spreadsheet. It often has invisible things in it that you can't see, and it makes the data not behave correctly. And if your data came from more than one place, some of your data can be misbehaving while the rest of it is acting fine, and you may not know that your results are all wrong. So it's very important to clean and trim, and we'll walk through it in a few minutes. This is just your motivator. So here I've cleaned and trimmed this cell. It gives me what looks like a 12, but it still has a formula in there. So I pasted it into this cell as a value only, which we're going to show you how to do that. And then here I've made it a number. And why is that important? I am taking the average in this row of each of these numbers. And the only one that gives me an actual average is this one where there's nothing there but a 12 and it's a number. These, you get the division by 0 because it thinks that there are no numbers here to divide. Now we're going to clean this data before we do anything with it. And the way we're going to clean it is we're going to use the formula that cleans it. So we're going to have to copy this data and we're going to bring it into different cells. Now we can either do it by inserting a column in between each of these, or since I have a small number of columns, I'm just going to make a whole new set of columns for the clean data. So I'll paste, see, I selected these and copied. And then if I just click in that cell, that tells where I want to start my paste. And I use the keyboard Control V to paste, or you could up here use this to paste. And now I'm going to put the formula that Excel provides that will clean any invisible stuff and trim spaces to make sure that the data is, as we call it, clean. So I write equal, all formulas begin with equal, clean, open parentheses, and now I'm going to trim it inside, that way I clean and trim at the same time. So trim, open parentheses, I click in that cell, so that's A2 and it writes the A2 for me, and then I've got to close the parenthesis and close my second parenthesis, and then hit enter. And so what that does, if there were any invisible characters that came from a different computer that I got my data from and I can't see it, they're gone now. And the extra spaces are gone. And now I don't want to write that formula 16,000 times if that's how much data I have. You only have to write it once. And see that little square on the bottom? When you put your cursor on it, you can drag that over, and that drags the formula over. And if you aren't coordinated enough to do that, you can copy this and then paste it in. Here, and I'm going to drag it down one, and then I'll show you how to do that. Copy, And then I can select all of those and paste. And see how it gave us the second row, because when you copy, it updates what's in there. See how it's A2, B2, C2, and then when I went down, changed to 3, A3. Now I need to do this for all of the cells. You can either, if you can get a hold of that little square on the corner, you can drag it down. If you can't do that, just copy. I'm going to drag it down. But you could copy paste. So drag it to the bottom. And the formula fills down. And then always check it, just in case you accidentally did something you didn't know you did. But yeah, make sure the right data came over. And see how now it's all lined up the same way, because anything that had extra spaces is gone. Okay, we're going to use our clean data, but a rule that you should always follow is always save your original data. Never get rid of your original data, because you might have to go back to it. So we're going to take the clean data and we're going to put it on a new tab to work with it. And if we were to move this data somewhere else, see how it refers to the cell that's over here. So if we move it, we got to do it a certain way. So we're going to select the columns, which you can do by dragging over the column headings, copy, or you can use the keyboard. And down here, let's make a new tab. So we click the plus. Now if I paste, I'm going to show you what will happen if I just paste it. It'll scare you. See, isn't that scary? The reason it did that is because there's formulas, and it's referring to there is nothing to go use the formula. So let's undo. And now we're going to paste just the values without the formula. And that's on this paste. There's all these special ways you can paste. And paste values is right here. Paste values. If you slide over, you get different choices, but always paste values only. Okay, now if we click in here, it's not a formula anymore. It's the value that the formula gave. And let's label. If you double click on this, you can rewrite over it. This is our original. And this is our clean data. So we're going to work with the clean data. And because I pasted values only, I didn't get any of the formatting. And I always want to make sure my header row is bold, because Excel has a tendency to know it's a header row if it's bold and the rest aren't. And then you don't always have to tell it when you're doing something. It always wants to know, do you have a header row? And if you bold it, Excel will just know you've got a header row usually. Now, I've got a lot of data here, so as I scroll, I can't see my headers anymore, and sometimes that is a big problem. There's a feature of Excel you can use to freeze the header row so that when you scroll, you'll still be able to see it. And that is right here on View. I'm going to put, there's several ways you can do this. One is to click under the place you want to freeze. I just want to freeze the header. So see here, freeze panes. And well, see, I can just freeze the top row. You could freeze the top row and the first column if you've got a lot of data that runs to the right and you want to be able to see the student names as you scroll across. Here we just need to freeze the top row. So when I click that, see how that line showed up? And now when I scroll, my headings stay. So Excel is really good at doing tedious things for you as far as data goes. Here, we might have some duplicates in here. We may have brought data in more than once, or for some reason, there could be duplicates and we need to get them out. So the way to do that, if we select the columns by clicking on the letters at the top, and then on the Data tab, so up here, find Data, and over here, Data Tools, one of them is Remove Duplicates. So we click on that, and we get this box, and see how it says my data has headers? That's already checked because I bolded them, so it's assuming they are headers. And we could just remove, check for duplicates on last name only. But here we want to remove anything where every one of these is a duplicate. Or maybe we just want to remove duplicates on the student ID because the names, maybe two kids could have the same name. So let's just remove duplicates based on student ID. And it tells us we had 62 duplicates in here with 20 unique values. And say OK. And now here's our new list with the duplicates removed. I just want to show you what would have happened if we would have tried to remove the duplicates with our data that was not clean. So if we go back to our original data tab, and I'm going to take out our clean trim data because we don't need it anymore because we put it on a different tab. So I'll just delete those. Now this is our original data. And let's see if we had removed the duplicates here, selected it, I go to the Data tab, remove duplicates, and I'm just going to remove based on student ID. It removes 61, and we removed 62 on the other. That means that's one of these numbers has something in it. And let me show you if we do a undo. If I were to have all these checked, it removes 60 and finds 22 unique values. And see, neither one of those answers is right. It's because there's extra spaces and hidden characters in here. You can get a different answer on the same page because the data is not clean.